What would be the scariest message humanity could receive from space? Story 1. One of the scariest messages humanity could receive from space wouldn't necessarily be a threat, a warning, or even a declaration of war. It might be something far worse, a bureaucratic notice. Imagine astronomers detect a clear artificial transmission coming from somewhere outside the solar system. Scientists decode it expecting something profound, maybe evidence of alien life, maybe a greeting from another civilization. Instead, the message reads something like this: Earth is scheduled for demolition to make way for a hyperspace bypass. All planning charts, zoning notices, and demolition orders have been publicly available at the Alpha Centauri Interstellar Planning Office for the past 50 Earth years. Since no formal objections were submitted during the review period, the project has been approved and construction will proceed as scheduled. Any complaints at this stage are unfortunately too late. What makes a message like that terrifying isn't hostility, it's indifference. Humanity wouldn't be destroyed because we were dangerous, or because we lost a war, or even because we mattered enough to be opposed. We'd simply be an obstacle in the path of something much larger, an interstellar infrastructure project being carried out by a civilization that barely considers us relevant. From their perspective, the situation would probably feel completely reasonable. The paperwork was filed. The notice period was observed. If anyone on Earth had wanted to object, they should have done so decades ago at the proper office in Alpha Centauri. Unfortunately, the demolition crews are already on the way. Story 2. You have to be quiet, or they'll hear you. The terrifying part wouldn't be the message itself, but what it implies. For decades, we've been sending signals out into space: radio transmissions, radar pulses, satellite broadcasts, even deliberate messages aimed at other star systems. Projects like SETI have been listening for alien signals, and some scientists have even proposed actively transmitting messages to announce our presence. But imagine finally receiving a response. Not a friendly introduction, not a scientific exchange, just a warning from some distant civilization telling us that broadcasting our location is dangerous. It would immediately raise a horrifying question. Dangerous because of what? The message suggests two things at once. First, that intelligent civilizations exist and are aware of each other. Second, that something else is out there, something powerful enough that the safest strategy is complete silence. Suddenly, every radio signal we've ever sent into space would feel like shouting our address into a dark forest. Maybe advanced civilizations survive by staying quiet. Maybe the reason the universe seems silent isn't because nobody is there, but because everyone who understands the rules already knows better than to make noise. And if that message ever arrived, the most chilling part might be realizing that we've already been talking far too loudly. Story 3. Imagine astronomers finally detecting a clear artificial signal from a distant star system. After weeks of decoding, scientists manage to translate the transmission. The world gathers to hear humanity's first confirmed message from an extraterrestrial civilization. And the message says, "I am a pacifist of my world. It is the luck of your civilization that I am the first to receive your signal. I am warning you. Do not answer. Do not answer. Do not answer." The chilling part is what that implies. This alien isn't threatening us. They aren't asking for resources or trying to establish communication. Instead, they're urgently telling us to stay silent. That suggests something about their own civilization, something serious enough that even a peaceful individual believes contact with humanity would be dangerous. Maybe their species isn't peaceful. Maybe their government monitors transmissions and responds aggressively to new signals. Maybe civilizations that broadcast their location are treated as targets. Or maybe there's something else entirely out there, something even they fear attracting. The message implies that the only reason Earth hasn't already been noticed is because the signal reached one individual who chose to quietly warn us instead of reporting it. If that message were real, it would leave humanity with a horrifying decision: respond and risk being discovered, or stay silent forever, wondering what kind of universe makes a peaceful alien beg strangers not to speak. Story 4. We're not mad, we're just disappointed. At first, it would seem almost ridiculous. Scientists would spend months confirming the signal was real, analyzing the structure, verifying that it couldn't be natural interference. Eventually, the conclusion would be unavoidable. Something intelligent out there had deliberately sent a message to Earth. And that message wasn't hostile. It wasn't even angry. Just disappointed. That single sentence would raise 1,000 terrifying possibilities. It suggests whoever sent it knows about us. They've been watching long enough to form an opinion. They understand our language, our culture, or at least enough about our psychology to know how powerful that phrase is. And whatever they've seen apparently hasn't impressed them. Maybe they've been observing humanity for decades, centuries, or even longer. Watching our wars, environmental destruction, political conflicts, and endless arguments over things that seem small from a cosmic perspective. Maybe other civilizations passed some kind of test when they reached our level of technology. Maybe we didn't. The most disturbing part is that the message contains no instructions, no threats, no second chance. Just quiet judgment from something older and more advanced than us. Which might mean that somewhere out there, a civilization looked at humanity's entire history and decided we simply weren't worth talking to. Story 5. By the time you receive this, it will already be too late. Imagine astronomers detecting a signal from deep space, something artificial, clearly structured, repeating in a pattern that can't be natural. After months of analysis and decoding, scientists finally translate it, and that's the entire message. No explanation, no greeting, no instructions, just that single sentence. The terrifying part is what it implies. Who sent it? Another civilization? A warning from someone who already discovered a threat we don't know about? Or maybe the final transmission of a species that realized something was coming and tried to warn anyone who might hear it. Because if the message says it's already too late, that means whatever the danger is moves faster than the message itself. Maybe it's something spreading across the galaxy, a self-replicating probe, an unstoppable artificial intelligence, a cosmic disaster, or a hostile civilization that wipes out any intelligent species it finds. And someone out there realized what was happening. They knew they couldn't stop it. The best they could do was broadcast a warning in every direction before they were gone. But radio signals travel at the speed of light. So if we're only hearing the message now, then whatever they were trying to warn us about may already be on its way. Story 6. You're next. No explanation, no greeting, no alien mathematics or complex scientific symbols. Just that simple sentence repeating over and over in a signal coming from somewhere beyond our solar system. At first, scientists would probably assume it's a mistake. Maybe the translation is wrong. Maybe it's a fragment of a larger message that got cut off. Researchers would spend months analyzing the signal, trying to find deeper meaning hidden in the transmission. But imagine if there wasn't any. Imagine if the message really was that blunt. The terrifying part isn't just the threat, it's what it suggests about whoever sent it. If a civilization advanced enough to send interstellar messages like that, it implies they might not be interested in diplomacy, curiosity, or understanding. It suggests something much simpler. Predators don't usually negotiate with prey, and the message might not even be directed at us originally. Maybe it's just the last thing a different civilization managed to broadcast before they disappeared. a final warning fired off into space before whatever destroyed them moved on to the next target, which means the signal might not be a threat from the attackers. It might be a marker in a long chain of dying civilizations. A simple, hurried message meant for whoever happens to be next in line. Unfortunately, that might now be us. Story 7. Give them back to us. That's it. No introduction, no explanation, no coordinates, no description of what them even means. The panic would start almost immediately. Scientists would first confirm the signal is real and not some natural radio source or human interference. Once it's clear the transmission is artificial, the entire world would focus on a single terrifying question. Who or what are they? Are they people? Animals? Some kind of object or technology that ended up on Earth thousands of years ago? The message would imply that whoever sent it believes something that belongs to them is here, not just somewhere in the galaxy, specifically here. That realization alone would cause chaos. Governments, researchers, and conspiracy theorists would start combing through everything. Ancient artifacts, unusual materials, unexplained biological samples, mysterious signals, even rumors about secret research programs. Because if the message is correct, then either humanity unknowingly has something that belongs to another civilization, or someone here already knows exactly what they're talking about, and the message itself sounds less like a request and more like a demand, which leaves humanity facing a terrifying possibility. If we don't know what they want back, how long before they come here to collect it themselves? Story 8. The test is over. You have failed. Imagine astronomers intercept a signal that clearly isn't natural. It's structured, repeating, and unmistakably artificial. Scientists around the world work for months trying to decode it, expecting something monumental, maybe a greeting from another civilization, maybe the first step toward interstellar communication. Instead, that's the message. No explanation of what the test was. No description of the criteria. No instructions for what happens next. Just the final result. The implications would be horrifying. It would suggest that humanity has been observed for a very long time, long enough for someone, somewhere, to decide that our entire civilization was part of some kind of evaluation. Maybe the test was about how we handle technology. Maybe it was about whether we destroy ourselves with war. Maybe it was about how we treat each other, our planet, or other forms of life. Whatever the criteria were, the message implies that the observers have already reached a conclusion, and it wasn't a good one. What makes it even worse is the uncertainty that follows. Does failing the test mean nothing happens? Or does it mean the observers are about to intervene in some way? Because the message doesn't threaten us. It doesn't explain anything. It simply announces that whatever judgment was being made has already been decided. Story 9. One of the most unsettling messages humanity could receive from space might be the simplest possible response. Just one word. No. Imagine scientists finally detect an unmistakably artificial signal from deep space. After decades of listening, humanity has finally received confirmation that we are not alone. Governments, researchers, and the entire world wait anxiously as the message is decoded. Everyone expects something profound. Maybe a greeting, maybe an exchange of knowledge, maybe the beginning of communication between civilizations. Instead, the entire message reads, no. That's it. No context, no explanation, no follow-up transmission. The terrifying part is that it would immediately raise an endless number of questions. What question are they answering? Did humanity unknowingly send something before? Did we ask something without realizing it? Is it a response to our attempts to broadcast messages into space? Maybe it's the answer to some universal question civilizations eventually ask. Maybe it's a refusal, a rejection, a warning, a denial of something fundamental. Scientists would spend years trying to interpret the meaning behind it. Linguists, philosophers, physicists, everyone would try to figure out what the single word refers to. But the message would never change. Just the same signal, repeating again and again across the stars. No. And the worst part might be realizing that somewhere out there, an alien civilization clearly heard humanity, and whatever we unknowingly asked the universe, the answer was simply no. Story 10. People of Earth, your attention, please. This is Prostetnik Vogon Jeltz of the Galactic Hyperspace Planning Council. As you will no doubt be aware, the plans for development of the outlying regions of the galaxy require the building of a hyperspatial express route through your star system. And regrettably, your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. The process will take slightly less than 2 of your Earth minutes. Thank you. There's no point in acting surprised about it. All the planning charts and demolition orders have been on display at your local planning department in Alpha Centauri for 50 of your Earth years, so you've had plenty of time to lodge any formal complaint, and it's far too late to start making a fuss about it now. What do you mean you've never been to Alpha Centauri? Oh, for heaven's sake, mankind, it's only 4 light years away, you know. I'm sorry, but if you can't be bothered to take an interest in local affairs, that's your own lookout. Energize the demolition beams. Story 11. Transmission received. Liberation forces are en route. At first, people might celebrate. It sounds like help, like someone out there heard us and is coming to save humanity from its problems. War, poverty, climate change, disease, all the things we struggle with. The idea of a powerful alien civilization arriving to liberate us might seem like the beginning of a golden age, but the fear would creep in pretty quickly. Liberation from what? From governments? From borders? From capitalism? From religion? From our own species? The word liberation would suddenly feel very ambiguous. Throughout human history, invading armies have often called themselves liberators, even when the people they were supposedly helping didn't ask for it. A force powerful enough to travel between stars would also be powerful enough to decide what humanity's future should look like. And if they think we need liberating, that probably means they believe we're doing something wrong. The message also implies something else unsettling. Whoever sent it believes Earth is already under some kind of control or oppression, which raises an even stranger possibility. Maybe the signal wasn't meant for us at all. Maybe someone else here sent it first. And now the response has arrived. Liberation forces are on the way. Story 12. For what it's worth, we're sorry. That's it. No explanation of what they're apologizing for. No details about who they are. Just a quiet message of regret sent across the stars. The implications would be terrifying. Why would an alien civilization apologize to us unless something bad was about to happen? The message suggests they know something we don't. Maybe they've already discovered a threat approaching our region of space. Maybe they're the ones responsible for something that's already been set in motion. Or maybe they've seen this situation play out before. The phrase itself would be especially unsettling because it sounds so human. It's the kind of thing someone says when they know a bad outcome is unavoidable. When the damage is already done and all that's left is acknowledging it. That's what makes the message so chilling. It doesn't sound like a warning meant to help us. It sounds like the final words of someone who knows there's nothing we can do about what's coming. Story 13. Some of us have been with you all along. You just didn't notice. At first, the message wouldn't even seem hostile. Scientists would decode the signal and confirm it's artificial, and the world would react with shock that an extraterrestrial civilization has contacted us, but the sentence itself would raise a deeply disturbing implication. If they've been with us all along, that means they didn't just discover Earth recently. It suggests they've been here, on this planet, for a long time. Long enough to observe humanity closely enough to know we never realized they were present. And if that's true, it opens up a terrifying number of possibilities. Maybe they've been quietly studying our species for centuries. Maybe they live somewhere we rarely look, deep underground, beneath the oceans, or in environments we assumed were empty. Or maybe they've been hiding in plain sight. The message implies something even stranger, that whatever they are, they blend into our world well enough that we've never recognized them. That realization would send humanity into an immediate spiral of paranoia and speculation. Because if an alien civilization has truly been here all along, then the most frightening question isn't where they came from, it's who or what they might already be among us. Story 14. No progress noted. Initiating trial number 002. At first, the wording would confuse everyone. Scientists would confirm the signal is artificial, and the world would start trying to interpret what the message actually means. The phrase, trial number 002, would immediately raise a disturbing possibility. It implies that something already happened before, trial number 001, and apparently it didn't go well. If the message is directed at Earth, it would suggest that humanity might have been part of some kind of experiment or observation without ever realizing it. Maybe our entire history, our wars, technological development, social progress, has been quietly monitored as part of a test run, and the observers just reviewed the results. No progress noted. The real horror would be wondering what the first trial even was. Was it the rise and fall of civilizations? The way we handled power and technology? Our ability to cooperate as a species? If that was the first attempt, then the message suggests whoever is watching has decided the results were unsatisfactory, which leaves the obvious question hanging over the entire planet. What exactly does trial number 002 involve? Because experiments usually repeat the process, but with adjustments to see if the outcome changes. Story 15. One of the scariest messages humanity could receive from space wouldn't even be a message, just a signal. Astronomers detect a transmission from somewhere far beyond the solar system. It's clearly artificial, repeating perfectly, impossible to mistake for a natural cosmic source. Scientists around the world work to decode it, expecting language, numbers, maybe some kind of greeting. Instead, what appears on the screens is incredibly simple. A countdown timer. Days, hours, minutes, seconds, ticking down. There's no accompanying text, no explanation of what the timer represents, no indication of who sent it or why. Just the steady, relentless march towards zero. At first, people would assume it's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's part of a larger transmission that hasn't been decoded yet. Maybe it's just a mathematical demonstration or a calibration signal, but the clock keeps ticking. And it's synchronized perfectly across every receiver that picks it up. The panic would begin when scientists realize something even more unsettling. The signal isn't just broadcasting the timer, it's updating in real time, which means whoever or whatever sent it is still transmitting, watching the clock run down along with us. Governments would scramble to figure out what the timer means. Is it a warning, a threat, a natural cosmic event someone is trying to alert us about? Or is it something much worse? Because the closer the countdown gets to zero, the more terrifying the question becomes, what happens when it reaches it? Story 16. Imagine astronomers finally detecting a clear artificial signal from deep space. The world watches as scientists decode it, expecting a greeting from another civilization or the beginning of humanity's first contact with alien life. After weeks of analysis, the message finally becomes clear. It says, "This is Earth. You are alone." At first, it would seem confusing. The signal didn't come from Earth, so why would it identify itself that way? Scientists would immediately begin checking everything again, from the signal path to the coordinates it came from. Eventually, the conclusion would be unavoidable. Whoever sent the message knows exactly what Earth is and intentionally labeled the message that way. The message isn't introducing itself. It's reporting a result. It would imply that someone out there has already done what humanity has barely begun attempting. They may have explored the galaxy, scanned countless star systems, and searched for other intelligent civilizations for a very long time. After all that searching, they arrived at a disturbing conclusion. The message suggests that after checking everywhere else they could reach, they found nothing. No other civilizations, no signals, no signs of intelligence anywhere else in the cosmos. The terrifying implication is that the message isn't coming from neighbors. It's coming from the last ones who looked before realizing humanity might be the only intelligent life left. Story 17. When scientists look at the size of the universe, the numbers suggest that intelligent life should exist in many places. Our galaxy alone contains hundreds of billions of stars, many with planets. Across the observable universe, there are trillions of galaxies. Statistically, it seems extremely unlikely that humanity would be the only intelligent civilization to ever arise. And yet, when we listen for signals from other civilizations, we hear nothing. No broadcasts, no obvious megastructures, no clear evidence of technological societies expanding through the galaxy. Just the quiet background of natural cosmic noise. This puzzle is often called the Fermi paradox. The paradox comes from the simple question physicist Enrico Fermi asked: if intelligent life should be common, then where is everybody? The frightening interpretation is that the silence itself might be the answer. Maybe civilizations tend to destroy themselves before they spread very far. Maybe something out there wipes out advanced societies before they become visible on a cosmic scale. Or maybe intelligent species learn very quickly that broadcasting their presence is dangerous, so they stay quiet. Whatever the reason, the universe looks strangely empty for something so unimaginably large. The possibility that we are alone is unsettling. The possibility that others existed and something happened to them might be even worse. Story 18. Time repeats. You will live this life again, and again, and again, forever. At first, people might dismiss it as nonsense, but the idea behind it isn't entirely new. Philosophers and physicists have occasionally discussed something called eternal recurrence, the possibility that if the universe is finite in its possible states but exists for an infinite amount of time, then eventually every possible arrangement of matter could happen again. That would mean every moment, every decision, every accident, every conversation could eventually repeat exactly the same way. The disturbing part of the message wouldn't just be that life repeats. It would be that nothing can change. Every mistake you've made would happen again. Every regret, every tragedy, every missed opportunity would play out the same way. Even the good moments would repeat exactly as they did before. Not because of choice, but because the universe eventually cycles back to the same state. You wouldn't remember the previous cycles. To you, every run would feel like the first time. But somewhere out there, something already figured out the pattern. And it's telling us that everything humanity has ever done, every war, Every discovery, every moment of joy or suffering has already happened before, and it will happen again. Forever. Story 19. We have been watching you. You are not ready. That's all. No explanation of who we are. No description of what we're not ready for. Just the quiet confirmation that something out there has been observing humanity for a long time and has already reached a conclusion. The terrifying part isn't hostility, it's the implication that we've been evaluated. It suggests that our wars, our politics, the way we treat each other, the way we handle power and technology might all have been part of a long observation by something far more advanced than us. Maybe they've been monitoring our radio signals for decades or quietly studying Earth from afar. And after watching everything humanity has done, they decided we didn't pass. The message also implies something else unsettling. Contact was possible. They were considering it, but now they've chosen not to, which means somewhere out there is a civilization that has the technology to reach us, the curiosity to study us, and the power to make decisions about whether humanity should join the wider universe. And after looking at everything we've done so far, they decided we're not ready yet. Story 20. Thank you for reaching out. Your species will make good incubators for our young. At first, it might almost sound like a greeting. Scientists would celebrate that humanity had finally made contact with an extraterrestrial civilization. The message would confirm we're not alone in the universe, but the second sentence would sink in very quickly. Incubators. That single word would change everything. It suggests that whoever sent the message doesn't see humanity as an equal civilization or even as intelligent beings worth negotiating with. Instead, they see us as a biological resource, something useful for reproduction or survival. The message would also imply that they're already aware of our biology. They know enough about humans to believe we could serve some purpose for their species. That means they've likely studied us from a distance, possibly for a long time. Even worse, the phrase, "Thank you for reaching out," suggests they detected our broadcasts or deliberate attempts to contact extraterrestrial life. In other words, we didn't just discover them. We announced ourselves. And instead of responding with curiosity or diplomacy, they responded like farmers discovering a new environment full of suitable hosts. The message doesn't threaten invasion. It doesn't mention weapons or war. It simply treats humanity as something useful for reproduction, which might be far worse. Story 21. This human experiment was a mistake, worse than John's idea about populating the planet with giant lizards. Send another comet, and we will start again. The horror wouldn't just be the threat. It would be the tone. It sounds casual, almost annoyed, like someone reviewing a failed project. The message would imply that humanity wasn't the natural result of evolution at all, but part of some long-running experiment carried out by a far more advanced civilization. Our entire history, millions of years of evolution, every civilization, every discovery, might just be the unintended outcome of something they tried. The reference to giant lizards would make the message even more unsettling. It would suggest that whoever sent it might be talking about the age of dinosaurs, as if wiping out one dominant species and starting over with another is just part of their normal process. And the phrase, "send another comet," would be the most terrifying part of all, because it implies they already know exactly how to reset the planet. After all, Earth's history has already shown that a single large asteroid impact can wipe out most life on the planet, which means humanity might not be their first attempt. And if the message is real, we might not be their last. Story 22. Nice planet you've got here. It would be a shame if something were to happen to it. The terrifying part is how casual it sounds. It isn't a direct threat. It doesn't mention weapons, invasion fleets, or destruction. It just implies that whoever sent the message has the power to harm Earth and wants us to understand that fact. The tone would feel disturbingly familiar. It sounds exactly like the kind of warning someone gives before demanding cooperation, tribute, or obedience. And the fact that an alien civilization knows enough about Earth to comment on our planet means they've likely been observing us for some time. The message would also suggest that whatever technology they possess is advanced enough that they don't even need to explain the threat. The implication alone is supposed to be enough. That would mean the sender believes humanity is so far behind technologically that resistance isn't even worth discussing. The message doesn't say what they want. It doesn't explain what would happen if we refused. It simply reminds us that our entire world exists, and someone out there thinks they have the ability to take it away. Story 23. We are the Borg. Existence, as you know it, is over. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. From this time forward, you will service us. Resistance is futile. The reason a message like that would be so frightening isn't just the threat of invasion, it's the idea of assimilation. Instead of destroying humanity, whoever sent the message would be telling us they plan to absorb us completely. Our technology, our knowledge, even our bodies would simply become components of something larger. Humanity wouldn't die in a dramatic war. It would slowly disappear as individuals are merged into a collective system. That's what makes the message so unsettling. It implies there's no negotiation, no diplomacy, and no victory condition. The sender isn't asking for cooperation or resources. They're announcing a process that has already happened to countless other civilizations. The phrase, "resistance is futile," would suggest they've encountered resistance many times before, and it has never worked. The message would also imply something even worse. The sender doesn't see humanity as an enemy or even as a rival civilization. They see us as raw material, not something to defeat, something to upgrade and absorb. The most disturbing part of the message is that it doesn't sound angry or emotional. It sounds like a routine announcement from something that has already done this many times before and expects the outcome to be exactly the same again. Story 24. The time for harvest has come. Please stand by for departure to a meat processing facility off-world. At first, people might think it's a joke or a mistranslation. Surely an advanced alien civilization wouldn't contact another intelligent species with something that blunt. But the horror would come from the implication behind the wording. It doesn't sound like a declaration of war. It doesn't sound like negotiation or diplomacy either. It sounds like a logistical notice, the kind of message sent before moving livestock or cargo. The phrase "harvest" suggests that whoever sent it doesn't see humanity as equals or even as enemies worth fighting. They see us as resources. The message would also imply something even more disturbing. Harvesting usually implies planning and preparation. Farmers don't suddenly discover crops the day they collect them. They monitor, cultivate, and wait until the time is right. That would suggest whoever sent the message has been aware of Earth for a long time. Long enough to watch our population grow, long enough to decide when we're ready. The calm, procedural tone would make it even worse, because it would mean the sender doesn't believe resistance or negotiation is even worth mentioning. From their perspective, the harvest schedule has simply arrived. Story 25. One of the scariest messages humanity could receive from space would be something that sounds less like communication and more like a sentence already passed. Imagine astronomers detect a strange object entering the solar system. It isn't moving like a comet or asteroid. It slows down deliberately, changes course, and eventually something arrives near Earth, some kind of probe or envoy. After weeks of attempts to communicate, the message finally comes through. It says something like, "Your planet is now marked for death. Your world will be consumed by the devourer." And that's it. No explanation of who the devourer is. No negotiation. No demand for surrender. Just a statement that the decision has already been made. The terrifying part would be the tone. It wouldn't sound angry or hostile. It would sound ceremonial, almost routine, like someone announcing the start of a process that happens all the time somewhere else in the universe. It would suggest that Earth isn't being attacked because we did something wrong or because we're a threat. We would simply be in the way of something vastly larger than us. Maybe the message is coming from a herald, a messenger sent ahead of something unimaginably powerful. Maybe entire worlds have been destroyed this way before, and the announcement is just a formality. The worst part is that the message doesn't include instructions for survival or resistance. It doesn't say prepare to fight. It doesn't say surrender. It simply tells us that the planet has been marked, and whatever is coming next already knows exactly where we are. Story 26. Imagine astronomers detect a transmission from somewhere beyond our solar system. After weeks of decoding it, the message turns out to be a calm, carefully worded statement. It says something like, "You're on your own. It's a wonderful, enlightened galaxy out here full of beauty and knowledge, but we've concluded your world and your species are too damaged. Remain in your solar system. Do not attempt to expand beyond it." The terrifying part isn't hostility. It's the implication that whoever sent the message already knows what the rest of the galaxy looks like. It suggests there are other civilizations out there, maybe many of them. They might be exploring, sharing knowledge, traveling between stars, building something far beyond anything humanity has imagined, and we're not invited. The message would imply that someone has been observing us long enough to make a judgment about our species. They've watched our wars, our conflicts, the way we treat each other and our planet, and decided we're not ready to join whatever wider community exists in the universe. But the worst part is the warning at the end. Stay in your solar system. That line suggests the sender isn't just giving advice. It sounds more like a boundary, which means somewhere out there might be a civilization or an alliance of them powerful enough to enforce it if we ever try to leave. Story 27. It could sound more like a routine government announcement. Imagine astronomers detect a structured signal, clearly artificial, clearly intelligent. Scientists manage to decode it, and the world gathers to hear humanity's first confirmed message from another civilization. Instead of a greeting, the message calmly announces something like, "People of Earth, your attention please. This is a representative of the Galactic Planning Council. The development of the outer regions of the galaxy requires construction of a hyperspatial express route through your star system. Unfortunately, your planet lies directly in the planned route and has been scheduled for demolition. The process will begin shortly. Thank you." The truly terrifying part of a message like that wouldn't be anger or hostility. It would be indifference. Whoever sent the message wouldn't see humanity as an enemy or even as something worth negotiating with. From their perspective, Earth would simply be an obstacle, like a building standing in the path of a highway project. The announcement would sound procedural, polite, even bureaucratic. It would imply that this sort of thing happens regularly somewhere in the universe. Entire planets might be removed the same way construction crews clear land before building infrastructure. And the worst part is that the message wouldn't include any way to appeal the decision. Just a calm notification that the demolition process is about to begin. Story 28. If you are hearing this, ignore it. Ignore this message. Know that the more you question why, the closer it gets. We were erased. Every sapient species was erased. Don't mourn us, the redacted, because it will come for your world too. The terror wouldn't come from a direct threat. It would come from the implication that the sender wasn't warning us about their own attack. They were warning us about something else. The message would suggest that intelligent civilizations across the galaxy once existed, but something systematically wiped them out. The fact that the species name is partially missing or corrupted would make the situation even more unsettling, as if even their identity is being erased. The most chilling part is the strange instruction at the beginning. Ignore the message. It implies that even thinking about whatever destroyed them might somehow draw attention, which means the signal itself might be dangerous. And by decoding it, humanity might have already done exactly what they warned us not to do. Story 29. We see you're approaching the Great Filter event. Good luck. The terrifying part would be realizing what the phrase Great Filter refers to. In discussions about the Fermi paradox, scientists sometimes talk about the idea that somewhere between the formation of a planet and the rise of a galaxy-spanning civilization, there may be a stage where almost no species survives. That stage is called the Great Filter. It might be something like nuclear war, runaway artificial intelligence, environmental collapse, uncontrollable biotechnology, or some technological threshold that civilizations reach and then destroy themselves with. The reason the message would be so frightening is that it implies someone out there already understands this stage very well. They've seen it before, many times. And instead of warning us how to avoid it, the message just wishes us luck. That would suggest the event is either unavoidable, incredibly difficult to survive, or something they themselves barely made it through. The calm tone would make it even worse, because it would sound like someone watching from a distance as another civilization reaches the same dangerous point in its history, and waiting to see if we make it past it, or disappear like so many others before us. Story 30. The sun just died. At first, it would sound impossible. The sun is a stable star that, according to our current understanding of stellar physics, should keep burning for billions of years. A message claiming it suddenly died would seem like nonsense or some kind of mistake. But imagine the signal came from a probe stationed far beyond Earth, maybe somewhere in the outer solar system, where it could observe the sun before the effects reached us. The terrifying part is that light takes time to travel. Sunlight takes about 8 minutes to reach Earth. That means if something catastrophic happened to the sun, if it somehow collapsed, shut down, or disappeared, we wouldn't know until the light stopped arriving. For 8 full minutes after the event, Earth would look completely normal. The sky would still be bright. The planet would still be warm. Everything would appear exactly the same as it always has. Then the sunlight would suddenly vanish. The sky would go dark in the middle of the day. Temperatures would begin dropping almost immediately. Within weeks, the surface of Earth would become lethally cold, oceans would eventually freeze, and nearly all life would struggle to survive. That's what makes the message so chilling, because if we received it from somewhere farther away in the solar system, it would mean we only had minutes left before the darkness arrived. Story 31. Imagine astronomers finally detect a clear artificial signal from somewhere deep in the galaxy. Scientists spend weeks decoding it, expecting a greeting or maybe some kind of scientific message from another civilization. Instead, the transmission calmly reports a finding. There are 60,000 planets exactly like Earth in every detail. Every civilization that formed on them followed the same path. They are all just as dysfunctional as yours. At first, the message might seem confusing, but the implications would slowly sink in. It would suggest that whoever sent the message has observed thousands of civilizations identical to ours. Not just similar planets, but societies that developed the same way. Technology, culture, conflicts, progress, mistakes. And every single one ended up the same. That would imply something deeply unsettling about intelligent life. It would suggest that humanity's problems, war, division, greed, environmental damage, political chaos, aren't unique failures. They might be an unavoidable stage that every intelligent species goes through. The number itself would make it even worse. 60,000 attempts at civilization. 60,000 times the same story played out somewhere in the galaxy. The message wouldn't say what eventually happened to those worlds, but the fact that someone felt the need to tell us about them would raise an obvious and terrifying question. If every civilization follows the same path, how many of those 60,000 planets actually survived it? Story 32. This timeline is the best one we've found so far. At first, people might even feel relieved. It sounds like good news, like whoever sent the message has been studying different possibilities and concluded that our current reality turned out well. But the more people think about it, the more disturbing the sentence becomes. It implies that someone out there has the ability to observe or analyze multiple timelines. Maybe they can simulate alternate histories, or maybe they've actually seen countless variations of human civilization play out in different ways. And out of all those possibilities, this one was the best. That realization would be horrifying, because it would mean every disaster humanity has experienced, every war, every plague, every political collapse, every tragedy in our history might actually be the least bad outcome compared to what happened in other timelines. It would suggest that in other versions of history, things went far worse. Maybe humanity destroyed itself earlier. Maybe civilization collapsed completely. Maybe the planet never recovered. The message doesn't threaten us. It doesn't warn us. It simply implies that someone has already explored all the other possibilities and concluded that the messy, chaotic world we're living in right now is actually the most successful version humanity ever gets. Story 33. We hope you've enjoyed your simulation. At first, the reaction would probably be confusion. People would assume it's a joke, a mistranslation, or some kind of strange alien greeting. But the more scientists analyze the signal, the clearer it becomes that the message was deliberate and directed specifically at humanity. The terrifying implication would be obvious. If the message is correct, then everything we experience, history, physics, the universe itself, might not be the base level of reality. It could all be part of a simulation created by something outside our universe. That would raise even worse questions. Is the simulation ending? Are we being observed right now? Was humanity the purpose of the simulation, or just a side effect inside it? And if someone out there is capable of running entire universes as simulations, what does that say about how insignificant our entire existence might be to them? The message doesn't explain anything further. It doesn't say who built the simulation or what happens next. It just thanks us for participating, which would leave humanity wondering whether the next message will say something much worse, like, session terminated. Story 34. One of the scariest messages from space wouldn't even arrive through telescopes or radio signals. It would arrive through us. Imagine one day, without warning, every person on Earth suddenly stops mid-sentence. For a moment, there is silence, and then everyone begins speaking the same words at the same time. The first phrase is simple: we. No one knows why they said it. People immediately panic. News stations report the same thing happening everywhere at once. Every language, every country, every city, billions of people speaking the exact same word simultaneously. Then it happens again a few minutes later. We are. Governments scramble for explanations. Scientists search for some kind of atmospheric phenomenon, neurological event, or global signal that could cause synchronized speech like that. But nothing explains how every human mind could be affected at once. A third message comes hours later. We are coming. By now, the world is in complete chaos. The terrifying implication is obvious. Whatever is sending the message isn't using radio waves or satellites, it's using human minds. Then the final phrase arrives. Every person on Earth opens their mouth and says the same sentence at the exact same time. We are coming tomorrow. And suddenly the silence returns. No signal, no explanation. Just billions of people realizing that something out there was able to take control of every human voice on the planet for a few seconds. And whatever it is, it will arrive in less than 24 hours. Story 35. As you will no doubt be aware, the plans for development of the outlying regions of the galaxy require the building of a hyperspatial express route through your star system. Regrettably, your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. The process will take slightly less than 2 of your Earth minutes. Thank you. The terrifying part wouldn't be hostility. It would be complete indifference. The message would sound like a routine announcement, the kind of notice sent before demolishing a building to make way for a highway. Whoever sent it wouldn't see humanity as an enemy, or even as something worth negotiating with. Earth would simply be an obstacle in the path of a much larger infrastructure project. The fact that the message says, "As you will no doubt be aware," would make it even worse. It implies that, from their perspective, the information had already been publicly available somewhere, just not anywhere humans would ever think to look. The announcement wouldn't include a warning to evacuate or any option to appeal the decision. Just a polite notification that the demolition of our planet is about to begin, and that the entire process will be over in less than 2 minutes. Story 36. Attention all planets of the Solar Federation. We have assumed control. At first, the confusion would be immediate. What Solar Federation? Humanity has never formed an alliance with other planets. As far as we know, there are no other civilizations in our solar system at all. The message sounds like it's addressing a group that Earth didn't even realize it was part of. That's what would make it so unsettling. It implies that the solar system was already considered part of a larger political structure or territory by someone out there. From their perspective, Earth might not be a newly discovered world. It might just be another small member of a regional system, and now that system has been taken over. The phrase, "we have assumed control," would make it even worse because it suggests the takeover has already happened. No invasion announcement, no demand for surrender, no warning. Just a calm declaration that authority has changed hands. The most terrifying question wouldn't be who sent the message. It would be realizing that whatever power just seized control of the entire solar system might already be here. Story 37. One of the scariest messages humanity could receive from space wouldn't be a threat or a warning. It would be an instruction. Imagine astronomers intercept a structured signal that clearly isn't natural. After days of decoding, scientists finally translate the message and broadcast it to the world. It says, "Simulation set to reset in 48 hours. Please back up your consciousness before that occurs." At first, people might think it's a joke or some kind of elaborate hoax, but the signal keeps repeating, perfectly structured, clearly artificial, and coming from far outside the solar system. The implication would be terrifying. If the message is real, it suggests that the universe might actually be a simulation running on some kind of external system. Everything humanity has ever experienced, history, physics, life itself, could just be part of that program. And now the program is about to reset. The phrase, "back up your consciousness," would make the situation even worse. It implies that whoever sent the message assumes intelligent beings inside the simulation already know how to preserve themselves outside of it, which humanity, obviously, does not know how to do. That would mean other civilizations in the simulation may have discovered a way to upload or store their minds somewhere before a reset happens. But Earth never figured it out. So, while the message sounds helpful, it would really just be informing humanity that we missed the last step. The system is about to restart, and we don't know how to save ourselves. Story 38. Your intergalactic broadcast has been canceled due to declining viewership. Thank you for participating. At first, people would think it's a joke, but if the signal is real and deliberate, the implication would be deeply unsettling. It would suggest that humanity has been part of something much bigger without ever realizing it. Our wars, our politics, our culture, even our daily lives might have been observed as entertainment by civilizations far more advanced than us. From their perspective, Earth wouldn't be a rising civilization. It would be a show. The terrifying part would be what canceled means. When a show ends, the set is taken down. The cameras are turned off. The production moves on to something else. If our entire planet has been part of some kind of cosmic observation or entertainment experiment, cancellation might mean the project is no longer worth maintaining. Maybe the simulation stops. Maybe the observers simply stop protecting Earth from cosmic threats. Or maybe they just shut everything down and start something new somewhere else. The message wouldn't explain what happens next. It would simply inform us that, after watching humanity for thousands of years, the audience lost interest. Story 39. As you will no doubt be aware, the plans for development of the outlying regions of the galaxy require the building of a hyperspatial express route through your star system. Regrettably, your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. The process will take slightly less than 2 of your Earth minutes. Thank you. The terrifying part wouldn't be anger or hostility. It would be complete indifference. Whoever sent the message wouldn't see humanity as an enemy or even as a civilization worth negotiating with. From their perspective, Earth would simply be an obstacle, like a building that needs to be cleared so a highway can be built. The phrase, "as you will no doubt be aware," would make it even worse. It implies the information was technically available somewhere, just not anywhere humans could realistically access. Maybe the notice had been posted in some distant interstellar registry for decades. The message wouldn't offer evacuation instructions or any chance to appeal the decision. Just a polite notification that the demolition of our planet is about to begin, and that the entire process will be over in less than 2 minutes. Story 40. Stop transmitting immediately. You have been detected. At first, that might sound like a warning meant to help us. Whoever sent the message might be trying to protect humanity by telling us to stay quiet. But the terrifying implication would be obvious. Detected. By who? For over a century, Earth has been leaking radio signals into space. TV broadcasts, radar pulses, military communications, satellite transmissions. Anyone with advanced enough technology, within a few dozen light years, could theoretically detect that our planet has a technological civilization. If the message is real, it suggests that some other species out there realize that something dangerous has just noticed our signals, and they're trying to warn us before it's too late. The phrase, "stop transmitting immediately," would mean the situation is urgent, not "consider stopping" or "you might want to stay quiet." It sounds like someone who knows exactly what happens to civilizations once they're discovered. The worst part is that the message would arrive after decades of broadcasting, which means the signal telling us to stop might already be far too late, because if someone out there has already detected Earth, they already know exactly where we are.